February the 5th. I see a lot of people looking at my profile and I'm curious why. And if they find what they are looking for, not a criticism, by all means continue and follow if possible. It just brought me to another question. What's the most important story we will ever tell? Like so many things, the answer depends on the time we live in. We, as in Homo sapiens, always had language, so we must always have had thoughts in our heads as well as stories. The question, however, is how did we perceive this running commentary accompanying our every step? We can't know for sure, but there's some evidence that tells us that the generations before us drew the line between themselves and the outside world differently, or they perceived the barriers as more permeable. They made distinctions between their thoughts and more powerful thoughts that felt like actions they released into the world just by thinking. For example, curses or love spell or things like that. And yet other thoughts that were the voices of entities they couldn't see but whose presence they felt. It's hard for us to imagine, as we all are trained to see the world through the lens of a humanistic worldview, which is the prevalent story today. Humanism says the highest authority is the human being. More specifically, it says human feelings are the harbinger of the ultimate truth. Feelings being biochemical algorithms calculating probabilities. Keep that in mind for later talks. If what is inside us are the harbinger of ultimate truth per definition, there needs to be an impermeable barrier between us and the world. Listen to your heart simply excludes the reliance on voices you perceive as not yours. Right now, or until very recently, I should say, the most important story, therefore, was the one we spun about our identity. Yes, our identity is also just a story we construct and embellish to create a sense of unity and purpose. Purpose leads to happiness. Happiness is good. The new technology makes it easier and easier, but by using social media, we outsource the work previously done by our brains. We spend hours every day publicizing our precious story and becoming very attached to it. Doing so, we don't just try to protect us with self-delusions, as we have always done throughout history. We try to please or to rile up or to excite, get a reaction. We thus replace the actual experience, the ultimate harbinger of truth, to make our story seem like a seamless movie with a perfect story arc. Something else we thereby do? Perpetuate stories like the hero's journey story arc that promises constant progress, or things like consumerism, or the role of a woman, or the view of post-colonial world that splits into oppressors and the oppressed, etc., that we aren't even aware of, thereby becoming a tool of others. The attempt to stick with the experience as is demands a lot of effort and can be painful because we will have to acknowledge in the process many things about us that we don't want to acknowledge. And I'm not saying that all stories are bad. Happiness is a good thing. But the price of the inability to distinguish between fiction and reality adds up. And eventually it adds up to things like war. Because often the stories we perpetuate, unwittingly or wittingly, are stories that perpetuate conflicts. So what I say is, be aware of all the stories that you use to create your reality, your identity. Get to know you. Think. Make a habit out of thinking. Make thinking a movement. Listen, comment and share. And as always, thank you for listening.